we get to make another sword. I've done 2 swords out of EVA foam before, this will be my 3rd. Always like to get some practice in. I have done a video on making an EVA foam sword before, so you can go check that out on my channel. And we'll be doing this in pretty much the same way, just changing up a couple of the methods really. So I've got this wooden dowel. People have told me don't use a wooden dowel, go use a metal rod or something like that, but I've already got this and I need to use it, and I do not intend to be actually hitting people with this sword. I just want to keep it lightweight but sturdy enough that I can carry it around a con, because it has to be nice and con safe for whenever cons properly come back. I'm not holding my breath at the moment. So yeah, this isn't cut to length, this is just what I had, and it's about the right length. I'm just going to leave a bit at the end that's just going to be foam, but we got a good length for handle and part of the blade. And I've already cut out some strips of 10mm EVA foam. It's nice high density stuff. So I've done 2 strips, so together they'll be 20mm, so they are wider than the dowel. And on here, as you can see, I've already sort of marked out an area that I'm going to cut out. So basically what I'm going to do is get the my sort of round sanding disc on my Dremel and run it along here, taking out all this excess and sort of creating a trench. Now doing it on both sides. Going to get some contact adhesive, glue this in, take the other half, glue it on there, and then with the dowel in the middle, obviously it won't at the moment, so I've not cut it out, we should get these 2 to stick nicely on top of each other so it should be flat, and then we can clean up the edges and work on actually giving the blade like a nice sharp edge. Because looking at it, the concept art, the blade is very simple, so no one's really put a lot of design detail into it, because the only concept art that was released was it's mainly looking at the costume rather than the actual prop. This has kind of Darksaber vibes, so that's kind of what we're going to go for here. We're going to keep it simple. The blade shape is going to be a bit Darksaber-y, the handle is going to be quite square like the Darksaber, because you know, if Zemo was going to be in the Star Wars universe, I have a feeling he'd have a Darksaber. So now I'm just going to mark out how long I want the handle to be. Not going to be too long. Stop it there. So that's where our cross guard is going to go. Basically I want to round this off more than I am going to round this off. So we've got some imperfections and stuff we can sand out, but nothing too major at the moment. Right, so this is what we got so far. Blade with the handle. I've kind of just gone over some areas with a little bit of a cork just to try and fill in some of the seams. Like this side's gone a little bit weirdly lumpy for some reason. But we filled in a little bit. It's still kind of lumpy, but we're just going to live with it because we're going to have to cut into the blade anyway. Just install some magnets, so it'll be done on this side of the blade. And as I always say, paint hides a multitude of sins, so we're okay. We'll hide it with the paint job. And cut out this piece of EVA foam here, just to use as sort of like the guard bit. So just a rectangle, cut off the corners, just rounded off all the edges with Dremel. And basically, it's just a friction fit, so just cut it out just enough that it'll fit on there. I'll probably add a little bit of glue just on a couple of the sides to make sure it stays on. so we've done one edge, which is the blade edge, in the silver, and kind of did the other side in a mixture of silver and black to get this kind of grey look. Just taping the edge up nice and straight gives the illusion that this blade is built straighter than it actually is. So what I'm going to do now is glue in the magnets on this side, and then just go at certain bits with an airbrush just to add a little bit more detail, as well as wrapping the handle here in a black leather. So we're in the process of modifying our Baron Zemo CosplaySky costume. Now this is the mask that came with it. As you can see, it's a fairly nice sort of latex mask, got a bit of detail to it. We want to change the colour of this mask with a bit of paint, but before we do that, I actually kind of want to fill this mask out and give it a face shell, because obviously we don't want it to be soft. The actual original mask on the show looks like it's got a face shell structure of some sort. So what I've got is I've got some of these templates from Evil Ted, something I was originally going to use for a Shocker costume, but gets to be used for another Marvel boy. So Evil Ted's templates are available on his website. You do have to pay for them, but they're really cheap, and once you've got the file, obviously you can use them as much as you like. It does have different sizes on there, so you've got a small, medium and a large, and does sort of show approximately what size that each small, medium and large will sort of fit depending on your head shape. So I've gone for the medium, which should hopefully fit in this really nicely. So of course, first thing we've got to do is cut this out, and I'm going to transfer this over to some foam. So there we go, we've got some foam installed. I didn't use the entirety of the shape of the head, just mainly used the front and tweaked it a little bit just so it was more curved in places. I was originally trying to do this out of 10mm foam, but it was a bit too difficult with the pattern. The pattern is for 8mm, definitely doesn't work with 10mm, so we've gone for 5mm, so we've still got some flexibility to it, but it is still rigid enough to hold its shape. We've just got a couple of panels on the side here as well, just to again help with just keeping the shape a little bit better. Nothing on the back, so I can get my head in and out easier. And as you can see, the front now holds a proper shape. Alright, so it looks like paint sticks on here really well, so we're just gonna go and give this more of a light dust with our purple, and then probably do a black wash afterwards. You now join me in the kitchen as we have to dye these gloves. So the last couple times I've dyed stuff, I've literally just put a load of hot water in a bucket and just set it outside for a bit. But because this is a nylon fabric, we have to use a different dye. So I've actually got dye that's made for nylon, and this stuff needs to be boiled to get it to work. So we need the stove. Always check the directions on the back to know what you're doing. So we're just gonna fill a pot with warm water, add our stain, stick in the gloves, and then bring to a boil and maintain temperature for half an hour to an hour with frequent stirring. So it may take a little while. Hopefully it will work. Obviously with these gloves, they've got lighter patches on them. Those are the bits I want to go purple, and the dye shouldn't affect the black at all. So see what happens. I haven't had to use a boil dye before. Apparently this stuff does plastics as well, so good to maintain that for future use. Alright, so we have our dye, so we're just going to put it on the countertop, dip our gloves in, and just see what happens. Now moving on to the main difference between Show Zemo and Concept Art Zemo, which is Concept Art Zemo has this kind of tactical armoured vest. What I've done, I've gone on eBay and got one of these utility vests or fisherman's vests. They come under different names. They're fairly cheap. This one's just a nice sort of black, sort of cottony, canvasy-ish fabric. So you see, it comes with lots of pockets. Pockets are good for cosplay. We will have to cover some of these up, but I probably will leave gaps so I can actually utilise the pockets. I bought this in a large just to make sure it's going to go over my shirt and my coat, and I've tested it and it fits really nicely over both. So this is just going to be the base for our jacket. The reason I've gone for a jacket of this type is because it has a zip which stops quite low, doesn't go all the way up, which is very similar to what's on the concept art. With my coat, it means the sort of purple leather lapels show through, which you don't have on the concept art, so we're going to tweak the design a little bit here and there. So we're just going to go cut out different thicknesses, different sections of EVA foam out, and just stick it on here. We've got some clips and some webbing just to sort of make extra bits to have different textures and different details, and we'll custom make some other bits. And on the back I just want to insert some more really strong magnets to attach to the sword. So yeah, should be a nice build. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to like work on a couple of pieces, glue them on, and then sort of do it like that, just so I know how each bit sits and I can sort of tweak stuff as I go. So these are the first couple of pieces. I've just cut out, tacked them down to a board so I can spray them with Plastidip, which is basically a spray-on rubber if you haven't used it before. I'm kind of running out of this, my can's leaking a little bit, but basically what it is, as I said, a spray-on rubber. It provides a nice surface for your paint to actually adhere to, because if you paint straight on EVA foam, because this is flexible, you get more cracking going on when you move. You'll still get some cracking with Plastidip, but not as much. You can use other stuff like PVA and wood glue. Just obviously with those two, you just need to smooth it out and make sure you don't have any brush strokes. And also before you put that on, you want to do what I did and just go over it with a heat gun to seal the foam. Now what I'm going to do is just grab my airbrush, a little bit of silver, mix up a little dark silver, and then just sort of highlight some areas, because I don't want this to be like a grey or a black. It's hard to, obviously, the way that the concept art's drawn. I'm just sort of going to make it sort of a dull silvery kind of colour, maybe throw in a couple of little purpley hints. Who knows? Zemo does like his purple, so we might do that. So here's what we got so far. We've just got the front at the moment, not got anything on the back. So I kind of try to stick with the shapes that are sort of visible on the concept armour, like a lot of square blocky shapes on the edge. I've got sort of tweaked bits around the side. This bit here is actually 5mm foam rather than 10mm, just to get a little bit more movement sort of around the top of the arms. Making use of the actual utility pockets on the front, so there's 10mm foam stuck on the top, 5mm foam on the bottom, just using the Velcro that's already there. And I'm just going to add a few more detail bits to the front. So there's a couple little strips that I might just put across this section here that exists on the concept art. So that'll just be out of either 5mm or 2mm foam, just painted silver, glue it one side, Velcro it the other, so obviously you can still take it on and off. And also because Zemo has these kind of straps that also go over this costume, I'm actually going to make it so it's permanently attached to this, just so bits don't move and fall off, and we kind of keep the style going and I can make sure it all fits nicely. So I've got some of this extra sort of thick webbing, thick as in wide rather than the actual thickness itself. So for starters, I'm just going to get one piece, sort of glue it in place and get some extra detail pieces, go over the top, do that on both sides. And then we'll move on to the back, and the last piece we'll do is working on sort of the utility belt. So I've just got my soldering iron out. I'm just going to heat that up because I don't have like a lighter or anything at the moment. So when I'm cutting the webbing, I'm literally just going to sort of melt the edges to stop the webbing from fraying. So this is what the back of our vest looks like now, and because this stuff's done out of the 10mm thing, it's quite flat, basically. So just to stop these sort of bits from sticking out at awkward angles, I'm just going to very gently go over the whole of this back bit with the heat gun and just sort of mould it into a better shape just to sit on a body. Then once that's done, we can add sort of the final strapping, the detail bits, and the place for the sword to sit, and we should have finished Zemo. So I've got some of this leftover pattern foam just to use up sort of the last of my scraps, really. I'm not going to use the pattern side, I'll stick the pattern side underneath. So basically for the gauntlets, I'm not going to do like any of the upper arm stuff just for the sake of movement, so I'm just going to do the forearm stuff and leave it at that. So I kind of want it to be a decent length for my forearm, so I'm going to do from my wrist here to just below the elbow. See, I've just marked a line there, that's going to be, and then sort of eyeballing out where it's going to end. So if I cut it at an angle, I'll still have this bit kind of visible, which is sort of the look I'm going for. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. No templating on this one, just see how it goes, and if the first one fits nicely, you just draw around that for the second one. So with the armour and the gauntlets now finished, it's time to give this a test fit. So that's our concept art Baron Zemo cosplay. A nice easy cosplay, the base costume supplied by CosplaySky. With a couple of little tweaks and some little homemade bits, I think it looks pretty good. So I'll add this guy to my roster of Marvel cosplays and hopefully bring him out to a convention probably sometime next year. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you like what I do here, please subscribe if you haven't already. Check out some of the other stuff I've been doing. Thanks as always, got to go out to my supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, help me keep making videos, then the links are always down in the description below and at the end of the videos. Now, considering I've got 4 layers on, this is getting pretty warm, so I'm now gonna go jump out of this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. And I still haven't figured out a Marvel sign off for these costumes, so see you next time.